Arriving in late 1997 in Japan, Wild Choppers was a short but enjoyable journey into the cockpit of some crazy helicopters in a third-person arcade shooter. Despite mixed reviews on its release in the land of the rising sun, Sata were desperately looking to bring their first title on the N64 to the West, and being a perfect fit of Midway's arcade-centric lineup, they stepped up to the plate and planned its worldwide launch. The problem was that it took them 7 months to do so, as Midway were waiting for a quiet period in the N64 release schedule. Eventually landing on North American store shelves in June of 1998 and European shores in September of the same year, Chopper Attack, as it was now titled, does have some minor tweaks from the Japanese release, but it sadly felt like a dated title by the time we received it. With a few helicopter-based games on the N64 to choose from, it's fair to say that Chopper Attack is on the purely arcade end of the spectrum, sitting right next to Army Men Air Assault, with Nuclear Strike at the other end of the scale. If you're wanting a short, sharp and action-packed pick-me-up, then you couldn't go far wrong with Chopper Attack in your collection. Booting up the game, you'll have a training mode that will allow you to get to grips with the immediately fiddly controls. After spending some time taking down the various enemies, you should quickly find that you are able to deal with both ground and air assaults, and can switch between the game's many weapons quickly. In the Japanese version, you were forced to use the D-pad for movement and the analog stick for aiming. For the Western release, Sata thankfully gave the option to have the helicopter movement with the C buttons, so fans of the Turok series should be instantly at home. Head into the single player campaign and you'll be greeted with a wide array of 8 unique, interesting and balanced aircraft to choose from. They genuinely all handle and play completely differently, and so there's a lot of experimentation to be had as you find a craft that works best for the mission at hand. For some missions you'll need to be quick in terms of movement, but there are fewer enemies, so you'll want a more nimble chopper. Other missions however see you move slowly through mountains, and so you'll want one with more armour to take some heavy damage. Each chopper has its own distinctive look and pilot from across the globe, and although the actual pilots themselves do lack personality, the cleverly designed helicopters are really eye-catching. The main campaign missions see you take the usual array of environments from jungle, desert, snow and mountains, with a mix of objectives from taking down enemies, defending ships and rescuing prisoners. At the start of each mission you have the general give you a brief to show you the map, and then it's off straight into the mission you go. The gameplay is generally fast and frantic with a lot going on screen. Aside from enemies to take down, you can also destroy pretty much all of the environmental objects. Chopper Attack makes this really worthwhile, as buildings, hangars and storage units often contain bonus points, weapon power-ups and shield boosts. Being an arcade style title, and to keep the frantic nature of the game up, you also have a fuel meter. You'll need to complete the mission by the time you run out of fuel, and so if you're not just managing your ammo and shields, but you're also looking at your fuel, so there is a lot to keep up with. You'll especially want to keep an eye out for bonus points, as at the end of each successful mission, you have your points total added up, and you'll be rewarded with a cash bonus to buy new ammo and special weapons for the next level. The ability to choose your own weapons loadout is a real bonus in the game. Everyone will have their own personal favourite weapons set, but the usual mix of missiles, nukes and bombs are all here. With a limited supply, you'll need to learn when's the best situation to use them in. Thankfully though, your basic machine gun ammo is unlimited, and it can become incredibly powerful with the right number of upgrades. With so much happening on screen, you could be forgiven for thinking there would be a lot of slowdown. In my whole time playing through the game from start to finish, I never once had a single instance of slowdown, but this is perhaps why the developers chose to keep the texture quality low and the draw distance isn't quite as far as it should be. There is quite a lot of fog, which at times is fitting in certain levels such as the jungle, but in the desert level it looks completely out of place. The enemy vehicles, your helicopter and buildings are all nicely done, and despite the low quality it's often easy to realise what type of enemy you're up against and where shots are coming from. Even humans on the battlefield are easy to identify, and in a very humorous touch from time to time you will also come across a Rambo clone who will try to take you down with missiles. If you get too close to him, he'll actually jump on your tail and you'll need to shake him off before he does too much damage. One of my biggest surprises was just how much I like the music. Let's not beat around the bush here, the quality is very 16-bit era like, but in Chopper Attack it just seems to work so well. It's catchy, fits the pace of the game, and also mixes well with the environments you're in. The effects are also all in stereo, And aside from the explosion sounding great, there's also smaller details like the rattling of metal if you collide with enemies or mountains. There are also some funny one-liners your pilot will utter, such as "I've got a birthday present for you," as you drop an air-to-ground cluster bomb onto hapless soldiers below you. More often than not though, these lines of dialogue are lost in the sheer amount of noise coming from the multiple explosions on screen. Sadly, the biggest letdown in the game is the fact that there is no multiplayer. This game just screams out for a 2-player co-op mode which would have doubled up the amount of fun and could have led to some fantastic scrambles for high scores. If you do get good at the game, at least there's a harder difficulty there tucked away in the options menu for you to play through. All in all though, Chopper Attack is just the kind of game I enjoy playing at the moment. It's not an all-time classic by any means, but if you have a limited amount of time and want some great explosions, a little challenge, and a game that's easily beatable in one afternoon sitting, then Chopper Attack could be right up your street. But how do you remember Chopper Attack? It came out at a time when there were some eagerly awaited titles being released right around the same time, and so I believe it was kind of forgotten about, being lost in the shuffle. Or perhaps you rented this after the press pretty much universally recommended this as a weekend rental. Whatever your memories, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below, and until next time.